Have you ever opened your banking app, stared at the number, and thought, wait, that can't be right? You didn't take a vacation. You didn't buy anything crazy. You didn't do something reckless. You just lived your life, and somehow your money disappeared again. Now, here's the scary part: most people don't even panic anymore. They just sigh, close the app, and move on. Because deep down, they've accepted this as normal. If that's you, if you've ever thought, I make decent money, so why does it never feel like enough? Stick with me. Because today, we're going to talk about something almost no one explains. You're not bad with money, you were trained this way. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart, hardworking people keep struggling financially. If you're someone who earns money, follows the rules, does what you're supposed to do, and still feels like you're barely moving forward, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you. All right, let's pull this apart slowly. Here's the thing: most financial advice starts with the same assumption that you're irresponsible, that you spend too much, that you lack discipline, that if you just tracked every dollar, everything would magically work. But that explanation collapses the moment you look at real data. Over 60% of people earning more than $100,000 still live paycheck to paycheck. Doctors, engineers, senior managers, people who are objectively smart. So let me ask you something. If intelligence doesn't fix money problems and income doesn't automatically fix money problems, then what does that tell us? It tells us the issue isn't personal failure, it's conditioning. Think about your childhood. You were rewarded for following instructions, for staying inside the lines, for doing what you were told. You were punished for questioning authority, taking risks, or being distracted. School trained you to optimize for compliance, not outcomes. You were never taught how money flows, how systems reward behavior, how inflation actually works, or how leverage changes decisions. Instead, you were trained for one thing: get a job, earn a paycheck, don't mess it up. That mindset works right up until adulthood hits. Here's what most people don't realize: a predictable paycheck doesn't just provide income, it programs behavior. When money arrives on a schedule, your brain builds your entire lifestyle around that rhythm. Your brain doesn't ask, how do I grow this? It asks, how do I allocate this? So you commit to rent, car payments, insurance, subscriptions, lifestyle upgrades, and slowly, silently, your fixed costs rise to match your income. Not because you're reckless, but because the system trained you to feel safe only when everything is accounted for. This is where psychology matters more than math. Once your brain adapts to a certain lifestyle, anything below it feels like failure. So when your income goes up, you don't feel richer. You feel entitled to better. Better apartment, better car, better food, not luxury, just normal. And now your baseline cost of living is permanently higher. This is why raises don't change people's lives. They just raise the stakes. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Alex, so I'll just save more. And look, saving matters. But let's be honest, saving alone feels discouraging. If you save $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year, and $60,000 in 10 years. Sounds good until inflation eats it. Over the last few years, inflation has been unusually high, which means money sitting still is quietly shrinking. So people subconsciously stop trying. They don't say it out loud, but their behavior shows it. Here's the part nobody explains: money problems are rarely financial, they're nervous system problems. When your life feels unstable, work pressure, bills, obligations, your brain switches to survival mode. And in survival mode, long term planning shuts down. Impulse control weakens. Comfort becomes the priority. That's why people spend after stressful days. Not because they're stupid, because their biology is winning. Debt makes this even worse. Debt isn't just expensive, It's psychologically corrosive. When you owe money, your brain starts asking smaller questions. How do I get through this month? How do I avoid overdraft? How do I make minimum payments? You stop asking bigger questions. What could I build? What could I invest in? What risks are worth taking? Debt shrinks your thinking horizon. That's not a motivation problem, that's conditioning. And that's why most financial advice fails. Advice like just stop spending, track every dollar, or have more discipline doesn't stick because it assumes infinite willpower. And nobody has that. Systems beat discipline every time. That's what wealthy people understand. They don't rely on self control, they redesign their environment. They automate saving, they automate investing, they build buffers. So good behavior happens without thinking. That's the shift. You don't need more discipline. You need better defaults. Pay yourself first, automatically, not emotionally, not if there's money left. Build a buffer that removes stress and buys clarity. Separate survival money from growth money. Never mix fear with strategy. Here's what most people never hear: you don't need to become a different person. You need a different system. You weren't bad with money. You were trained for a world that no longer exists, but now you see it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If this video helped you, hit subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone who keeps saying, I'm just bad with money. They're not. They were trained that way. And now you're training yourself differently.